who are on the call, you should know that this cohort is meant to build the capacity of participating organizations to facilitate father-specific parenting education and support groups. When we bring in content experts, we ask them to train from the perspective of like today's training. This is the father wound training. So we want our trainers to train from the perspective of building your capacity to facilitate small group discussions with dads about the father wound. So our facilitators today, Kelvin Potts and Arnold Chavez, will be coming from that perspective. So how do you facilitate a discussion with the fathers that are coming through your doors and sitting up, not your doors, excuse me, coming through your virtual platforms? How do you facilitate a discussion about just exploring the father wound, how it impacts them, how it impacts their parenting? And that's a perspective of the training today. So again, thank you for joining us. I just want to point out a couple of things. First of all, the Zoom basics. We've all been Zooming for a while at this point. Please, if you're not speaking, mute yourselves. If something resonates with you or you have a question, feel free to post it in the chat. We are a fairly small group this morning, so you can also jump in when it makes sense. If you have a question, you can also use the raise hand feature. And I want to say that's about it as far as Zoom basics are concerned. I just want to point out, and it's not really for this group, but because most of you guys are on here, the folks who should be facilitating, who should be attending these trainings are the actual group facilitators. So please ensure that your leadership understands that it's the facilitators who should be at these trainings, not necessarily management or, I mean, it's okay. They're welcome to be here. We encourage them to be here, but the most important folks that should be in the room are the people who are facilitating these groups. So that's one thing. Also, our workshop surveys. After each workshop, we administer a survey. You receive that from Virve. It is very important to complete those surveys. We use that feedback to secure funding moving forward. So in order for us to be able to continue to offer funding for the Fatherhood Partnership, it is important that you guys respond to the surveys. Virve, at the end of this training, she will be sending out a link to our, now this is a separate evaluation. We are sending out links where we want you to have the fathers that complete at least 4 sessions of your fathers groups to complete the survey that we send out to you. So we want to hear directly from the dads, and I encourage you all to please take a look at that survey so you can see the questions that are on there, so you can kind of build your programming and the content that you're sharing with dads so that it aligns with the survey. And lastly, we want to hear from you folks. Most of you guys should have already launched your fathers groups. So we want to hear from each of you who have one thing that has worked in your fathers groups, what's working well, and then is there a challenge? What are one of the challenges or 2 of the challenges that you've been experiencing when launching, facilitating these fathers groups, whatever it may be. This is helpful information to us, also helpful to folks that are already on the call. So one thing that is working, 1 or 2 things that is working, and then 1 or 2 things that is not working. Virve, I'm getting a call from Armando. Can you please follow up with him? I cannot pick up his call right now. He always seems to call right at the beginning of these trainings. So can you please follow? Thank you, Virve. So again, 1 thing that is working, 1 challenge. Dara, is there anything you want to add before we get into that? No? So I am going to ask for volunteers. If no one volunteers, I'm just going to call on somebody because I know who has launched their groups already. So can I get a volunteer? Reginald, is that you wanting to jump in?
Sure, I'll go first. And then good morning, everybody. And then for those who know how my internet work, I can either see you and you can see me, or you can hear me and I can hear you. So I got to make a choice. Please forgive me for not having my screen on. I just want to be able to hear the conversation and be able to input verbally. So but the biggest benefit we have, I think we have a good pool of dads to choose from or to invite to our group. But the challenge we've been having is engagement, and it's for like what I call legitimate excuses, like, they're working a lot, or that time doesn't work for them, or or maybe they are available at that time, but they're tired because they've been working a lot. I mean, it just, and that's been the most of the challenge.
That's real. Thank you for that. Reginald, what organization are you with?
A Better Way
Okay.
Incorporated.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Reggie.
Thank you.
So dads having life kind of prevent them from participating. That is something that is hard to avoid, but I appreciate you pointing that out. And having a big pool of dads to choose from is definitely a positive thing. Can I get someone else to share a little bit about what has worked with your groups and one of the challenges? Darren, I can see you and your cough came through clear, so it sounds like we might be good on the internet today.
I got a new laptop, brother. I had to step my game up.
Nice.
You know, I had these workshops to do, so I had to dig in my pocket and make $1 out of 15 cents. And
that's all we can do.
You know how we do it, man.
Yes. Yes.
Say
your organization?
Yes. Realize Potential Inc.
And what's the name of your father's group?
It's called Fathers with Soul.
There we go. Okay, go ahead, Darren. Thank you, sir.
Fathers with Soul. We started on the 24th of February. And it went well. My first group, we had 16 people on. Went well. I had a few young fathers on that were going through some things. They spoke about what they were going through and the challenges they had as fathers with young kids. And one of my challenges that I'm having was at the last class on the 16th. Was it the 16th? Well, last Wednesday, I had some technical difficulties. I used Eventbrite for the first time and created the flyer and everything, but somehow the Google Meet didn't get into the Eventbrite. And so I was scrambling, trying to get that corrected. But what I had to do was reschedule that workshop till May 7th. So next month, I'm going to have 3 workshops instead of 2 in May. So, I've been getting, emails and people registering, and I've been sharing the link and the flyer with multiple resources. And seems like this next class is going to be, next workshop should be pretty full. So,
and when's your next workshop, Darren?
The next workshop is next Wednesday. I'll tell you right now. Next Wednesday's date is the 24th.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I heard from Michael Gibson, your coach, who sat in on your first session, and he said that it was amazing. He said that your guys really opened up and were vulnerable, and that you did a excellent job facilitating. So I was good to hear, and congratulations, brother.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this collaboration all the way through June, and I see one of my expert speakers on the call that will be one of my speakers later on in the series. So, hello, gentlemen, and good morning. And lady. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Darren. Who's next?
I go next.
Go ahead, Kelvin.
So we received the grant. I'm with Positive Communication Practices Incorporated. The name of our program is called Pathways to Fatherhood. We launched our first session last week, a week before. It was either last week or the week before. But anyway, it was. We are focusing on the organization called the Brotherhood of Elders Network. It's a multi-generational group of African-American men who been together for 10 or 12 years, and they have the ages range from 80 to like 21, so there's like 3 different cohorts. So we picked guys from different cohorts so we could have this discussion and dialogue about fatherhood. So the first session was, I'm just going to tell you straight up, it was wonderful, man. It was very engaging. Everybody was really involved and sharing, getting really vulnerable. And I got to know a couple of guys that I didn't really know that well. It really went well. I don't know, I can't think of any challenges that were presented. Actually, we put a announcement out on the network because we're kind of keeping working exclusively with the Brotherhood of Elders Network. And we've got a lot of guys signed up for next week's session. I think we got like 20 guys signed up. So we're going to do 6 sessions with the Brotherhood of Elders Network. And we actually did a evaluation. And, we survey monkey type of thing and got really good responses. They loved it. So yeah, it went really well. That's
great. That's great to hear. Thanks, Kelvin.
Good job.
Yep, absolutely. Alberto, you posted something in the chat. Do you want me to just read that, or you want to make some comments about what you posted? Because you had some really interesting feedback. I appreciate what you said.
Did you want me to elaborate, or is it cool just to leave it like that?
You can leave it like that. That's fine. However you want to do, whatever you're comfortable with. I can go ahead and read it out.
Okay.
And I would like some feedback from either Dara or one of our other group members, where it says that they asked them what they wanted to learn. They asked the fathers what they wanted to talk about. They responded with great topics. Participants also shared that they've learned from each other and their stories, which is good. Peer support. Something that hasn't worked is not knowing the information well enough to deliver the topic clear, so that to help participants understand it well. So that can be hard. Dara, anybody want to have any kind of tips on when you don't have a really good handle on the subject matter? How can you best, convey it to your group members if you don't really have a good handle on the topics?
Tell them I don't have a good handle on this topic instead of trying to fake like you do. Mm-hmm. And then the second one is that's when it's really good to have a network of people and other providers in your life that you can invite to talk about whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So if you have a topic that you're not comfortable or confident around talking about, reach out to me or Kevin and say, hey, I want somebody to come in here and talk about whatever, and we will find someone that can come talk to your group about that. Do you have an example of a topic or something that you would like to share?
I can elaborate on that if I can.
Sure.
So one topic that I brought up, I should also mention that I'm leading Spanish groups.
Mm-hmm. What agency, Alberto?
It's Alameda County Family Health.
Okay. Oh, the Fatherhood Initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah, got you.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been reading a lot and doing a lot of research on brain development at the different stages, not just the first 5, but all the way through adulthood. And I have a lot of examples on this, but it's been really difficult for me to translate from English to Spanish on a conversational level, because you can translate proper Spanish, to proper Spanish, but a lot of that Spanish doesn't make sense to a lot of our fathers, for whatever reason, right? Either education, academic levels, whatever the case is. But sometimes it doesn't even make sense to me. So anyways, I'll try to learn it in English first and get a real good handle on it. And I've been, attending other trainings and going to other Spanish groups myself, just so I can get a hold on how these other facilitators are doing it. But man, I've been caught in a way with my pants down when they'll ask me a question and say, well, wait a second, Alberto, what does that have to do with child development? And I can, elaborate on it, but sometimes they're not really comprehending it. And I can only blame myself, because sometimes I feel like, well, maybe I'm just not being clear enough, or finding a way that helps them understand.
Mhm.
That's real talk, Alberto. And I've heard that for even like brain development in English is some of the resources are not helpful. One resource that is helpful, and I'm going to find it and put it in the chat, is the Harvard has this Center for Child Development, and a lot of the videos are in Spanish, and have been translated, and from what I understand, are useful. I think another thing to do too is just let the group know that you're learning along with them. If they have information, additional information that they need to know, it's okay to say, let me go back and research that further, and I'll come back with the answer later. But I'm gonna find this Harvard, they have a bunch of YouTube videos in their center. I'll find that link and put it in the chat, and hopefully that'll be helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And also, Alberto, we have Carlos Guerrero, who is one of our coaches. And I know that you guys aren't a mini grant recipient, but he is a early childhood expert. And I'm sure that he can give you some tip sheets, and he may even be willing to come and have, facilitate a small session or do a small presentation on child development, temperament, or whatnot, because he's well versed in all of that and been doing this work for a long time. So if you reach out to me, I can put you in contact with Carlos, and you guys can make that connection. So really quick, for the folks who are just joining, we're going to spend another few minutes on what we're doing. Is we want to find out from those of you who have launched your fathers groups, what has worked for you, what's going well in your group, and then what are one or two of the challenges that you've experienced in your group. So I think we have Otis, Abdi, and then Anthony left, as far as Khalid as well.
Yeah, I can go.
Go ahead, Khalid.
We are in I think this was the 4th week. So we kind of already, kind of deep in, and I'm working with Black fathers at Berkeley Unified School District. What has worked well so far is we've really had good attendance and retention. Like, we started off with 11 or 12, and we're continuing to get 11 or 12, even though, on the listserv, there are way more, but the consistent 10, 11, 12 that we've had, that we started off with, has been good throughout the 4 weeks. And one of the things too that's been positive is some of these guys already knew each other and knew each other kind of working in the school district. So we have dads who are dads, yes, but they also work in the school district. So it's a crossover, and it's some synergy between what dads want, but also what the school district offers. And unfortunately, the school district seems not to offer a whole lot for fathers in specific, but that's typical in school districts. They kind of cater more towards mom and women and things of that sort. What has been a challenge, in some cases, everybody wants to share. Some guys dominate the conversation more than others. And that's been kind of, I don't want to cut anybody off, but that's been a challenge in terms of balancing people that talk more and then people that talk less. Mm-hmm. So just finding ways to incorporate those that we don't hear from as often. We also have a white father that's in the group, even though the group is for Black fathers specifically. He wanted to learn because his partner is Black and they're raising Black children. And so, that hasn't been an issue at all, but he is more like, I want to be an observer. I don't really want to say much and talk. That's what he told me, kind of on the side. But I was like, well, you're still a dad, and we still need your input. So again, getting the people that talk less talk more, and getting the people that talk more to kind of let everybody talk has been a challenge. But overall, I guess them talking is not a bad thing at all, just in general. So I'm trying to balance it out, but that's a welcomed challenge.
Nice. Thanks.
And Michael Gibson did sit in on one of our meetings as well.
Perfect. That's something else you guys should have all already connected with your coach. And if he has not sat in on one of your groups yet, you should be working to schedule schedule that. And if you do not know who your coach is, please reach out to me individually and we'll make that happen. So we've got Otis and Abdi, I believe. Oh, and Anthony as well. So let's kind of move this on a little quicker. If we can keep our comments to a minute, please, just so we can get it turned over to our esteemed trainers so we can get to the content. Abdi, Anthony, or Otis, whoever wants to go first, jump in. Abdi, go ahead. Go ahead, Abdi.
Yeah, I'll go. Hi, everybody. I apologize. I've been having internet issues, but I'm definitely glad to be here. I'm thinking the topic is, how is it going so far, right?
What's working, and what are the challenges?
What's working was in the challenges. I really love incentives. We've seen our group's participation jump. We've had over 40 fathers. That's working real well.
Nice.
Some of the challenges is having the same dads come back week after week, because we might have 10 from the previous week, 10 from this week, 20 from the other week. So we don't really have a consistent number of fathers showing up on a weekly basis. We've had a great list of presenters and programs, for the fathers. That's working real well. We have, what else? We have a follow-up with the fathers. So, throughout the week, I will make phone calls and I will follow up with things that we can discuss during the hour-and-a-half Cafe Dad. Because, you have fathers who have a long list of needs that require, much more, follow-up. So, yeah, that's working well as well.
Thanks, Abdi.
Yeah.
Anthony or Otis?
Yeah, I'll go. I am. We had I don't really have much to report except that we're launching on next Thursday. We had some staffing issues on site. We're also reopening our libraries, and OUSD is opening back up, so we had to do some planning around our food distribution at this site because we share a lot with them. So we launch on Friday. Next Thursday at lunchtime. So that's all I got for now.
That's all right. Thanks, Anthony. Otis, last but not least.
Yeah, Kevin, I didn't really have anything. I haven't taught any classes this year. I've been doing more of the parenting classes, but I know Juan has been teaching in Spanish, and then Michael Lewis, but I haven't taught any. So,
okay. Otis, can you do me a favor and let Julie know that it is important for the facilitators? While we love Julie, we are welcome and we want her to be here as well, but it's really important for the actual folks who are facilitating these groups to attend these trainings, because we're bringing in trainers to talk about facilitating on these different topics. And while it's great to have management in the room, I think it's most useful for the facilitators, because this is basically facilitator training on these particular topics. So that's for all of you. Please let your leadership know that it is important for the actual person who is going to facilitate these groups attend these trainings. Anthony, you got a question?
Yeah, one thing I did want to say is along with I forgot the first topic about entering areas around that we didn't have knowledge of. When I was reaching out to the fathers this last week just to kind of set up for our meeting next Thursday, one of them was dealing with some child support issues, and his child is in another state. Mm-hmm. He's a new dad, and so it was. I'm going to reach out to you for that. That was one of our challenges, though. I didn't have a lot of experience. I'm going to need some help with that.
Absolutely. And that's the good thing about the Fathers Course. We have developed relationships with folks who are part of these systems, whether it's probation, whether it's child support. There are people who you can invite who will come, and like child support, they'll come for free and do an informational session and answer questions and whatnot. So those are important folks. We can probably help you get somebody from family court or mediation or something as well. Those are all important topics. So just the last comment I want to make, please make sure that you are connecting with your coaches. If you have not connected with your coach yet, let me know. If you do not know who your coach is, let me know, and we can put you in touch with your coach. And this is just for our mini grant recipients. If you are not a mini grant recipient and you'd like a coach, we can talk about that as well. But this is strictly mostly for our mini grant recipients that you should have already connected with your coaches. So enough of me talking. Dara, is there anything you want to add? I think it was great. It sounds like you guys are really hitting the ground running. And of course, there are going to be challenges. I also would like to point out that it is really helpful, especially Abdi, when you're having 40 people show up. It is very helpful. And it's helpful whether you have 15, 10 people show up. It's helpful to have someone who is the facilitator. And it also is helpful to have someone who is a co-facilitator who can help you monitor the chat, make sure people are muted, those different technical issues that we have, help people get in the room that are trying to access. It's hard for Darren, who's running his group, if he has somebody who's having a problem getting in or can't find the link, if he has to respond to that email or that phone call while he's trying to facilitate a group. So please, point that out to your leadership, that it is helpful to have some support on these lines. If you notice, I have Virve here to support. I have Dara here to support. And if you've been on our discussions, we've got a team of about 5 people that help support. And that's how to help things move smoothly. Obviously, if you don't have the capacity, if your agency can't do it, then you do the best you can with what you have. But if they can free up someone to provide some support, it makes it a lot easier on the facilitator. So with all of that said, I am going to stop running my mouth now and turn it over to Mr. Kelvin Potts and Arnold Chavez, who is here to talk about the father wound and build your muscle around having these conversations about the father wound with the dads in your group. So I'm going to mute myself, and Kelvin, it's you, brother.
Oh, so me, man? Okay. All right. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing today? Everybody excited to be here? Well, yes, I am. I'm very excited this morning. This is a really good opportunity to talk about some things that I have a lot of information on, and also some personal experience about. So first of all, my name is Kelvin Potts. I'm an OG from East Oakland, grew up in the neighborhood. I'm a survivor of, self-destructive kind of violent lifestyles. And I was given a ministry when I cleaned up my life. My ministry is to work with men and work with justice impacted youth. And that's what I do through an organization. It started at my church, and it expanded and grew into an organization. Now we do work with juvenile hall and different workshops like this. I'm also one of the original Father's Corps members. I think I was with the first cohort, Kevin, back in 2013. Yeah, it was a while ago. So, we've got this amazing relationship with First Five now, and I'm honored to be here, and I don't take this lightly. I don't take this platform. I'm very humbled at this opportunity to present. And you'll hear more from me later. I don't want to go into a long conversation, but I also want to say that I'm also a father. I have 3 grown children. I have 5 grandchildren, and I have a brand new great-granddaughter that was born like 2 months ago. So yeah, man, it's an amazing journey to fatherhood, so I'm gonna leave it right there, and I'm gonna introduce my compadre, Senor. I call him Dr. He was Dr. Arnold Chavez. I call him Dr. C. We've been doing some things together for quite a while. So Dr. C, introduce yourself, sir. Thank you.
Okay, hey, gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be here with you. And thank you, Kevin, for bringing us in. I recognize a lot of the faces out there, and it's good to see you guys. You guys look good. Anyway, if you don't know me, I worked with Alameda County Public Health I retired from there, but prior to that, I worked with the probation department. And then I also worked with a program called CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate. And that introduced me into working with Mike Gibson and going back to all the people at the mentoring center. So they were some of my trainers at the time. And so I picked up a lot of information from there from Martin Jacks. He was a very good friend of mine. And then what I've done in the last 15 years, I've been working out at San Quentin Prison doing anger management classes, parenting classes, working with this we started this big health program out there. And so I've been involved in that, anything dealing with men of color, and working in the probation department and working at San Quentin Prison. Right now I'm retired, but I've been teaching for over 30 years, co-parenting, parenting in English and in Spanish. And so it's a pleasure to work with Kevin. We've been doing a few things out at Stockton, and I've also worked with Mike White doing that, or Mike Gibson, Michael Shaw, I'm sorry. And so thank you very much, and hopefully we can learn from each other, because one of the things that what we were talking about was, we learn from each other, and we're all teachers in here. And I'm really glad that there was an opportunity for you guys to get some training money, so you can, the trainer training, being trained, you guys doing the training, and that's important. And one of the things that I've learned is, as far as when I go to teach, I let them know right off the bat, I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm trying to help you out on some, so you don't have to do the same mistakes. Thank you very much.
Get right to this situation that we're presenting today. Sharing my screen. Okay. So Positive Communication Practices presents Exploring the Father Wound, an exploration of how grief and trauma impacts fatherhood. So what we're going to do is we want everybody to introduce themselves one by one, tell you your name, describe your family, kind of like what I did, how many children you have, are you married, do you have grandchildren, something like that. Tell us who your agency is and your position, and one thing you're grateful for today and why. But the catch to this whole conversation is you have a 1 minute window. So just one at a time. We just have people just volunteer to do this. And
I'll go. This is Darren. Darren White. Realize Potential Inc. Describe my family. Middle class, 2-parent household. I had a blessed childhood. I'm a father of 2. My agency is Realize Potential. I'm the executive director and founder. One thing I'm grateful for is I'm grateful that I still have my father with me. He'll be 89 next month.
I'll go. My name's Armando DePina. I have 3 siblings. I have 4 kids. I'm a full-time single dad to my youngest. She's 10 now. I've had her in my care since she was 1. Agency and position. I've been working in Alameda County, as some of you know, for the past 7 years. I just recently resigned and took a new position with Contra Costa County. And I'm overseeing a new fatherhood program that's delivering services to the Black birthing mother and the Black father. One thing I'm grateful for today is that I have a job. I just moved into my new little place, and I set up my office space. I got my own office space. I'm grateful for that today because I think I need that to be productive.
I'll go next. My name is Harold Scoggins. I'm from a family of 8. I currently have 3 children, all out of the house, 3 grandchildren with a newborn daughter who's probably about 3 months now. I am a family advocate working for the city of Oakland, Head Start program. And one thing that I'm grateful for, and especially on this day, is life.
very good.
I'll go next.
I'll go. Oh,
Okay. Go ahead, Reginald.
okay. Thank you. My name is Reginald Wise. Trying to live up to it. Some days better than others. I'm an adopted child from a 2-parent household. Grew up pretty stable. I have 2 boys and 3 girls. Split from my ex. Let's see. I work at Another Road to Safety, A Better Way. Like I said earlier, I'm a family support specialist. I am grateful today for my mom, because she's 98 and she just had a stroke recently and looks like she's going to be okay. So
Great.
that's me today.
I'll go next. My name is Eduardo Picasso. I'm a family engagement specialist here at Fairview Elementary in Hayward, as well as Southgate Elementary in Hayward. I am a father. I'm a proud father of three that all go to the school that I work at. So I'm very blessed to be able to not only be an employee, but a parent in the same school that I'm working at. So it's really personal to me. One thing, I'm grateful for another day. Grateful to be here and grateful to be a part of this group, and really being able to play a role in getting fathers engaged into their children's education. Because, I'll be honest, one of the things that I've done, and I've done it myself, and we're trying to kind of stir away from, is always calling mom whenever there's an announcement or an update. It just kind of, we're just kind of geared to calling mom. But, one of my goals is to get fathers more involved and let them know that they need to encourage their children as much. Because, growing up, I always heard mom telling me to do good in school, but I never got that same reinforcement from dad. So I think that hearing it from dad would be like, wait, no, dad's telling, dad's interested in my academic, career. So just giving dads a voice and a platform to meet I think is a great step in the right direction.
I'll step in here. My name is Anthony Propernick. I'm a father of twin 4-year-olds. I actually turned 4 next month. I work for the Oakland Public Library. My position is in community programming and engagement. So I co-facilitate the father support group here. I also do bike programming, giveaway bikes, lend bikes, building a new bike shop here in East Oakland where one doesn't exist. And I also do food distribution along with other library services. One thing I'm grateful, because I wear a lot of different hats here and have to pivot a lot, is to be in the room with you all who dedicate so much time and thought into the work that we do with fathers. I just get a lot from these. I learn a lot from you guys. That's both helpful in my fatherhood experience, but also helpful in sharing and understanding what fathers need and what we can provide in these groups. So thank you.
Yeah, my name is Otis Ward. I want to just jump in. Just thankful, man, I can juggle and be in 2 places at one time. So, and the Father's Corp is very important to me. So I'm juggling 2 meetings right now. But yeah, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I have 5 sons, been married 3 times, 20 grandkids, and just had 1 great grandson, and have 1 great grandson on the way. I'm just, thankful and grateful that I can give back. I've seen a lot of soldiers, a lot of brothers that I grew up with in East Oakland that are no longer here. And so through the grace of God, I'm here to share wisdom and knowledge and experiences that I've been through as a father. I represent Alameda Alliance. I do community outreach for Alameda Alliance, and then for Family Paths, I teach their positive parenting classes, and then also represent their Fathers Initiative program.
All right, I'm Abdi. I'm one of 6 children. We're all grown adults now, thank you, God. And I'm a proud parent to a 6-year-old son that's in kindergarten. And I'm with HUSD as a family engagement specialist. I'm really grateful for the honesty and the authenticity of this group. So I'm really happy to be part of this group.
So is that everybody?
No, I haven't checked in. I can check in.
Okay.
My name is Alberto Murillo. I am a single father of 3. My son just turned 22. My daughter just turned 18, and I have an 8-year-old. I'm also grateful for these trainings. I've learned a lot through them. I think the biggest resource that comes out of this is just the connection with just the individuals that are in here. Collectively, I think we're an incredible pool of knowledge, and that's just, I feel like a rich man because of the people I've connected with, so I really appreciate the connections. And somebody said that they appreciate the honesty. Me too, because that's one thing that lacks in some of these other parenting classes or these other trainings, where the foundations come from a different area that we all know doesn't represent us as people of color. And, it's hard to be honest or get honesty from those groups. So I really appreciate the honest feedback. And yeah, thank you guys.
Okay. So everybody had a chance to check in?
I'll go. I haven't gone yet. I'm Khalid White. I come from a family of two. I'm the oldest of two boys, and we had a blended family growing up. And now I'm the parent of two girls, and we got a blended family. And they're growing up. As I'm grateful for, and I'm an educator in the city of San Jose, but I also work locally in the East Bay, various communities and things like that, sort of community groups. I'm grateful just to have the time off from work to be able to parent hands-on with my baby. It's not easy balancing, the parenthood and the trying to do different things, but I'm grateful to have this time off, particularly in the pandemic. I have both my daughters with me, and just happy to be able to be the dad that I'm trying to be.
Khalil got a beautiful baby girl, little girl. Wow, it's beautiful, man.
What a blessing.
Beautiful, man. What a blessing. So, Brother Otis got 20 grandchildren? My goodness.
Man.
What you started when you was 12 years old or something, bro? Man, you've been putting it in, bro. You've been putting it in.
I have actually two sons. I have a son in Moreno Valley, and then my oldest son. Those are the two that add to most of those grandkids. So
Okay.
yeah, I
All
got one that don't have any. My youngest son, he's 19, he'll be 20. And then I have one that has 3 and one that has 1. But those 2 is the one that, yeah.
I had to acknowledge that. That's something to talk about right there.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to move on and do this thing. I really appreciate everybody checking in. And, some of you guys, I've seen you before. We've seen each other before. Good to hear from you. Good to see you. We're going to jump right into this presentation about the father wound. I do want to say this prior to launching the slideshow presentation, that not only do we have a presentation, I have my own personal experience with having an absent father. I met my father for the first time when I was 15 years old. When I, started getting in trouble, ended up going to juvenile hall, and my mom said, "Send you stay with your daddy." So we had a not such a pleasant relationship for a lot of years, and I recognized the wound when I, got into drug rehab, and I started dealing with my feelings, and I got to work on that relationship. And when my father passed, we were in love with each other. So it was a process, and a long, difficult process. Let me make that real clear to you. But I wanted it. I wanted something from my dad that he didn't have. He didn't have to give because he didn't know how to do it. So he had to be taught to do this thing. So, I'm not going to go all into that story, but I thought I'd give you a little background, so it's not just I'm just presenting something I don't know nothing about. I have some experience with this. So it's not like, I'm a novice to this whole idea. So I'm going to go back to this slideshow. I miss seeing you guys in person, to be honest with you, man. To be honest with you. It's a good thing. Okay, so there's a trauma wound affecting more people than drugs or alcohol combined. It cuts deeper than flesh and bone and works its way to the soul. It affects both the rich and poor alike without prejudice. It is the father wound, and it leaves a wake of destruction in its path, more devastating than any natural disaster. The father wound. Check out this video.
Lou, if you walk out of Will's life now, don't you ever come back.
Sit down.
I ain't got time for no lecture.
I said sit down, Lou. You know, Will was doing just fine until you showed up. But now that you're back, you have responsibilities to him.
Look, we're still gonna take the trip.
Oh, bull! Bull! Will is not a coat that you hang in the closet, then pick it up when you're ready to wear it. His life goes on. He's not supposed to be here for you. You're supposed to be here for him.
You get off my back! You think I want this? It just happened! Now, when Will was a baby, I was scared.
Cut the crap, all right? Cut it. Because I've been there. But I didn't run out on my family. I was there every day for them because that's what a man does.
Fine, Philip. You win. You the man. You a better man than me. You happy? Now, you gonna tell Will or not?
I'm not gonna do your dirty work for you.
Fine. I'll call him from the road.
Yeah, then why don't you do that?
Yeah, I'll do that. Daddy out! What's up? Will, man, I'm glad you're here. Some business came up I gotta handle. So we're gonna have to put our trip on hold. You understand?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Just for a couple of weeks.
I understand.
Yeah. Maybe a little longer.
Yeah, whatever.
Look, I'll call you next week and we'll iron out the details. Okay?
Yeah.
It was great seeing you, son.
You too, Lou.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Will.
You know what? Actually, this works out better for me. You know, the Slimmies of summer come to class wearing next to nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Will, it's all right to be angry.
Hey, why should I be mad? I'm saying at least he said goodbye this time. I just wish I hadn't wasted my money buying this stupid present.
I'm sorry. If there was something that I
Hey,
could
you know
do.
what? You ain't got to do nothing, Uncle Phil. Hey, ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know? Ain't like I'm gonna be sitting up every night asking my mom, when's Daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him? Hey, he wasn't there to teach me how to shoot my first basket, but I learned, didn't I? Hey, I got pretty damn good at it too, didn't I, Uncle Phil?
you did.
Got through my first day without him, right? I learned how to drive. I learned how to shave. I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him. He never even sent me a damn card. To hell with him! I ain't need him then, and I don't need him now.
Will.
Now, you know what, Uncle Phil? I'm gonna get through college without him. I'm gonna get a great job without him. I'm gonna marry me a beautiful honey, and I'm having me a whole bunch of kids. I'm gonna be a better father than he ever was. And I sure as hell don't need him for that, because ain't a damn thing he could ever teach me about how to love my kids. How come he don't want me, man?
Okay, gentlemen. I've watched that quite a few times, and it still touches me, man. It still, touches my emotions, just that whole scene right there. So we're going to go into some breakout rooms, and I want you guys to have some discussions about that video. So we have some questions I'm going to share the screen again. We have some questions that pertain to the video we're going to do in breakout rooms, and we'll come back and have some share outs about what that experience was like for you guys. So the questions.
Dara's posted them in the chat now, Kelvin.
Okay. What came up for you while watching this video? What kind of feelings? Have you witnessed a relationship like this one between a father and a son in your community or in your family? And discuss your relationship with your father, whether good or bad. So we're gonna go into breakout rooms, give you guys a chance to chop it up a little bit and talk about how that went, and come back and we'll have a discussion about it. Everybody's back. Where's D White at?
He's there.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Okay, I'm looking for you, D White. So interesting. That was a very interesting dialogue. I want to hear from maybe a couple of people about what that experience was like. What was your breakout room experience like? You know, somebody talk about it, please.
I can go and kind of summarize our room. We had a variety of, everybody thought that the video was heavy. Several of us have seen it several times, and it hits every time. No denying the emotion and the realness of the video. We had folks in the room who had, great relationships with their dads. We had folks in the room who didn't necessarily have relationships, but reconnected at an older age. We had folks in the room whose dad was in the house and present, but worked so much he wasn't as engaged as the kids would have liked him to be, or probably even so much he wasn't as engaged as he would have liked to be. So just a variety of experiences, and it really just speaks to the importance of this work and the importance of providing space for, fathers to reflect on their own relationships with their dads and reflect on the kind of dad that they want to be. So I think that's about it.
Yeah, I was in a room there. Armando, you want to share what it was like for us?
Yeah, I sure will. So in our room, I mean, there was 3 different perspectives, obviously. My share out was that, my dad never hugged me, you know what I mean? When I was watching that video, I felt sad for dude. I mean, my dad was an amazing father, but he just didn't know how to really hug. And I was telling guys in the room that when he was older, he lived his last 5 years with cancer, and I would always go up to him and hug him. The other guys in the room, they had different perspectives. I'll let them share on their perspectives. I don't know if you, one of the guys wanted to share, because I've seen the video before. I've been through this training before. And every time I come through the training, I learn something new. And that is, everybody just has a different experience. I really felt bad for the guy, what's his name, Fresh Prince. And I just be sure to hug my kids all the time.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Kevin. I've seen the video several times that we do this training, but it still brings me to tears. I mean, it still hits my heart real hard, because that's, it's like listening to myself, through some periods that I went through as well. The rage that buried the hurt, then the hurt comes out, and it's like, wow, you could see the hurt in the rage. So I can imagine the hurt in the rage that he displayed. And that's where it kind of gets emotional for me, because I'm like, man, that guy's hurting. You know what I'm saying? So it just touches me, man, because I enjoyed the breakout session. We had Abdi in the room as well, and he shared some experience with his father. He's, had a really good, vulnerable breakout room session, which really was good for me. I enjoyed connecting with the guys in the room. It was good. Anybody else want to share about the breakout session? Maybe one more person?
I know we already shared, but just like to point out that it was through the Father Corps. I had a similar situation with my 20-year-old son. I was never in his life. I got a referral from one of the guys in Father Corps, and today we're like this. So just, you know, it's never too late, you know?
Yeah.
Never too late, because you see the Fresh Prince, he was ready at, however, you look like he was 20 years old. So never too late.
So we're going to move on with the presentation unless anybody else has got a
Kelvin, I just want to say really quick, I also want to just acknowledge the dad and how just hurt. I don't know if hurt's the right word, confused, ashamed. The dad was embarrassed himself. You know, he was ready to get out of there and not even have to face Will. And I think a lot of fathers who are not as engaged as they would like to be have that shame, you know, and that weighs on you.
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to share when we were in our group, I look at things from the father. I look at the different layers of some systematic or systems that have been in place that have prevented or separated fathers from being with their parents. And I always go back to the first time that I was in child support in the early 80s, when I felt like I was the only one in the courtroom by myself. I had the DA against me. I had, you know, the judge felt like the judge was against me. I mean, we've come a long way since then, but just a lot of structures that have been put in place that we don't really know the layers or why fathers weren't there. And that's what we really have to start digging down to. Of course, the child don't understand, but I know Kevin Brennan mentions a lot of times, like, you know, let's change the name from visitation to, you know, something else. I mean, just different things that have been in place in the system that really prevents fathers from really being there. I know many times, you know, you have fathers that have to work 2 jobs, you know, 3 jobs. I know some young brothers today, they work so many jobs because of the child support that's coming out of their paycheck. For them to be able to live a life for themselves, they have to work 3 jobs. But does the system think about this is preventing that child, that father from really being able to spend time with their son? Or their, you know, so we have to look at the systems that we have in place and restructure the systems so that dads can, you know, be there for their children, and that they don't have a crutch, so that they can say, you know, that I know that some make excuses, and that's where education comes in.
Okay. You know what? I want to piggyback on it. I was in Otis's group, so it was Reginald and Otis. We were talking about this, and I thanked Otis for bringing up a different perspective, because it's a different angle of looking at it, right? Like, what was that dad going through? Like, why wasn't he there? See, because media paints that pretty picture, right? Or they paint the really horrible one where this is what a bad dad looks like. This is what a good dad looks like. This dad is poor. This dad is rich, right? Reginald, if he wants to talk on it, but I'll summarize real quick. You know, I simply brought up the notion that it took me a while to build a good relationship with my dad, even though he was a great dad. It was more business transaction like, you know, and it took up until my 3rd child for us to really bond as fathers. And he came out and said that, you know, son, do it this way. Your last two kids, you know, you didn't do it so good. So do it this time, do it good. Reginald brought up the adoption component of it, how he, from his point of view as an adopted person, what that was like for him. And I thought that was a really good point to bring up. You know, Reginald, if you want to talk on that, man, you know.
Yeah, I'll share a little bit, and thank you for saying that. Yeah, no, I was you know, like I was saying, I had a dad in the home. He wasn't my biological dad, but I did grow up with a dad. So I feel like, you know, I know both sides of it. Like, I'm happy that he was there for me. And I do remember times where I'm like, well, I wonder why my birth dad, you know, didn't want to or wasn't a part of my life or for whatever reasons. But in contrast, I was sharing too, like, I've got 2 older sons, and the one that I spent the least amount of time with we're way closer now. And the one that I was there his whole life, he's like got some issue with me that I don't even know. So, you know, I mean, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, but still, you know, just being there is really important. And I get, you know, even though I chose a different path and I fought for my children, I get why fathers don't, because it feels kind of ominous. I mean, I took a picture of the sign. It was like the city and county of San Francisco against Reginald Wise. I'm like, damn, that sounds like, I mean, like the whole city and county against me. You know, I mean, that's pretty like intimidating. But so I took a picture of it because I get it. Like, you know, who wants to face that? Like that, even just seeing that on a sign sounds like, nah, I'm good. I don't think I even want to be here right now. I retreat. You know, like, you know, the people don't understand the pressure that fathers go through sometimes, because we've always been told, oh, you're going to be okay. Suck it up. You'll figure it out. What if you can't? What if you can't suck it up? What if you can't figure it out? You know, and like you said, the resources aren't there for you. So I see both sides of it, and it's hard to choose to say I'm going to fight against this thing, this monster, this thing that looks so ominous, and still stand up tall and be like, you know, I want to be a part of my children's lives. It's a challenge.
You know, I'll wrap it up, Kelvin, because I know we got more that we got to get to. Otis, number one, I appreciate you bringing up that other perspective, because that is important. I mean, I think the Father's Core work is rooted in, you know, fighting or supporting dads to fight that fight. And hopefully there'll be a time where we don't have to use language like fight when it comes to, you know, gaining access to our children and seeing our children. But the more and more you talk to dads, the more and more you understand what happens when, you know, co-parents are no longer in a romantic relationship. Dads feel, and when that relationship fractures and it becomes complicated and hard, dads absolutely 100,000% feel like they have to fight for the right to have access to their children. And we all have different life experiences that have either prepared us for that fight, for that long fight, or we haven't had the resources or life experiences that give us what we need to go up against the city and state, which does feel like a battle that you can't win when you're in the courtroom, like you said, Otis, by yourself, and everybody else has a partner or someone there to support them. So I definitely don't want to gloss over that fact, because the Father's Core is definitely rooted in all of that. And we've done some work around talking to dads who were not engaged in the lives of their children. And 100% of those dads wanted to be, and were taking steps towards being engaged. And that's the side that we don't see. And that's the side that as a program we are trying to highlight. And I'll be quiet because I know you got more to get to, but great conversation. I appreciate the comments, everybody.
You know, as a facilitator, you know, you put together a agenda and you have it timed out, right? But you have to allow for this processing. This is what you call processing. And this is the most important component of gathering men together, is to process thoughts, feelings, attitudes, conversation. And so we're going to allow the processing piece to take place. If we don't get through everything that we plan to give you, that's okay. This is really important that we dialogue. You know, because to be honest with you, man, it's like my healing and my transformation came through men's groups and through men's ministries and men supporting each other. That's where the heart of me moving into a different place. So I love this work, man. I'm here because I love to be here. I always used to hang out with the fellas. Back in the day, it was destructive stuff. Now we're doing, you know, we're changing our thought patterns. We're moving to a different place. So I appreciate this space. You know, so we're going to take full advantage of the space. So,
and that's why these groups that you guys are running are so important.
Yeah.
Because it provides the space that Kelvin is talking about.
Because something happens in the company of men that can't happen in the company of co-eds. This just doesn't happen. So we're going to get back to our slideshow presentation. Fortunately, but unfortunately. So both. Okay, so we went through the breakout rooms. Let me get back to this. The goal of the training is to define the father wound, give examples of trauma and impact of the father wound on children and adults, Identify tools and practices to support facilitation of fatherhood groups that are intended to engage discussion about the father wound. And that's huge right there. I don't know how much, for me, I'll just talk about me personally real quick. This won't be long. But my experience doing fatherhood groups, let me back up a little bit. In juvenile hall, in the maximum security units, which are predominantly boys of color, you go into one of those units and you bring the boys into a setting, you ask them, who's the most important person in your life? 20 young men will be in there, only maybe 1 or 2 guys say my dad. The rest of them are going to say my mother or somebody. So that's the indication of the relationship that they have with their fathers. It's usually not that good. And a lot of times they're acting out because they got that wound and they don't know how to process their feelings. I mean, we've done workshops focusing on fatherhood and showed videos similar to that one. I've had young men put their heads down and cry. And we had to go back to the units and to the cells and comfort them and come back and see them later on that day. So it's real stuff. I'm not saying that the fathers don't get a bad rap and some of the things that Otis was talking about isn't true. But what I know is that it creates a situation that I've seen and I've witnessed that's very challenging, to put it like that, okay? So the father wound is a deficiency of absence of love from your birth father, whether intentional or unintentional. A lot of times it's unintentional. The guys aren't, nobody, I don't think anybody makes kids to just dog them and treat them real bad. I don't think anybody's, hey, let me go make some babies and fuck, oops, and mess over them. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that's the way the men are designed to be that way, right? If they get caught up and different things happen, a lot of things that Otis pointed out are barriers to being, to providing love and support. So I'm gonna give Arnold and Mike for a minute. Dr. C, you want to go over the effects of the father wound real quick? You there? You might be muted. Dr. C, we can't hear you. Dr. C.
Press and hold the space bar.
Dr. C, there you go.
They got me?
Yeah, there you
All
are.
right. Are you going to put up? Okay. Low self-esteem. You guys, a person's characterized by lack of confidence and feeling badly about oneself caused by unhappy childhood or lack of confidence. All right. And these are characteristics of the low self-esteem: anxiety, low moods, looking at the glass half empty, depression, anger, and then it can turn into rage. Parenting, repeating the pattern. We learn what we see, and if we live in a dysfunctional environment, household, it can lead to disorder reality and emotional unavailability. The basic things that we have to do is parents play such an important role in raising the family. And it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to put that, instead of low self-esteem, make it high self-esteem. If you talk to your children about giving them love and give them, like Raimondo was saying, a lot of hugs and letting them know how beautiful they are and how great they are and how strong they are. And all this will reverse that low self-esteem. But so many times wounded fathers are taking care of themselves and they look at the negative versus the positive. Any questions on that?
Questions, comments, dialogue? Okay. So we're going to move into a conversation about group facilitation. And some of the stuff is going to be a repeat of something you guys already know. I know there's quite a few master facilitators at the table. So maybe, some of the things that we're pointing out about group facilitation, you're probably aware of already, but sometimes it's okay to hear it again. So we're just going to go over some basics of group facilitation and just bear with us on this. So
Evan, Mr. Potts.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at this, and would you guys consider the idea of possibly adding another?
Yes, sir.
Which is self-destructive behaviors.
Whoa, that's one that needs to be there. Absolutely, absolutely. I don't know how that got by us. I have no idea. Arnold, I'm gonna blame Arnold on that.
I'll take the blame.
Wow.
Oh man,
like that, like that, Kevin.
Hey, Harold, my bad, Harold.
Under the bus goes Arnold. Under the bus.
Under the bus.
That's just another characteristic, man, of low self-esteem.
As I was looking at this and just sort of chiming back on what two other brothers are saying about this format being very open and honest.
Yeah, man.
Through my wounds in teens, I went through that discourse of destructive behaviors with alcohol and other drugs. Because of my wounds.
Yeah, you and me both, bro. You and me both. You and me both. Yeah, I'm with it. Okay, group facilitation. Maintain flexibility when engaging and presenting. You guys, like I said, probably already know this. You know, sometimes, just like right now, you have a script all defined. You got to roll with the punches. You got to feed whatever thing happens to show up for this. Sometimes things need to be shifted based on how people show up and the conversation that we get into. Begin with a check-in and end with a check-out question. The curriculum is helpful learning tool. It's not a substitute for therapy. You know, we're not therapists, we're facilitators. Be mindful of personal beliefs that include religious and spiritual ideas. My suggestion is we don't even get into conversation about religion and spiritual ideas because it's.
I agree.
Okay. As a facilitator, one chooses to walk the road of a teacher, guide, and positive role model. So, you know, we need to present ourselves as professionals. It's important that facilitators understand the significance of self-care practice. We got to take care of ourselves because we're offering a lot here. You know, we're giving up a lot of vulnerability and we're putting ourselves in a very vulnerable position. So we need to have our own support system. That's the bottom line. It needs to be a support system for us, whether it be individual therapy, group process, or whatever it is. These are just suggestions. Provide a space for relationship building and transformational engagement. You know, that's important. Provide new information and teachings to support new experiences. Below the fear and anger, often pain and sadness. So teachings about, you know, that may be different than what people have heard before, you know, to give them an opportunity to be willing to look at a different approach to processing whatever situation they're dealing with. Okay, here's an activity example. It's kind of like it's kind of like more of an icebreaker. It's an interview. And what we do is you get two people together and they share information and they get up in front of the class, or I guess you're doing it on video now, and they introduce your new friend. It's like an icebreaker. It works really well in a lot of settings to have an icebreaker where people are like asking questions. And there's some fun questions in there that usually make people laugh. Plus you discover about some things about people you may not know. Okay, now we got suggestions for healing the father wound process. That word process is missing in this slide. I want to make sure you guys understand that what I believe is that the healing of the father wound is a process. It's not an event. It's not like you wake up one day or you go somewhere and things are okay. You know, usually there's a process that continues for a long period of time. So these are just some suggestions that we came up with. I'm gonna let Arnold talk about it a little bit. Like I said, again, these are suggestions. Arnold.
All right. You know, one of the things that I saw in my experience, I've seen ways of dealing with healing the father wound is faith and spiritually. And I saw it especially when I was working out at San Quentin prison, because they surrendered themselves to the Lord. And I see a lot of programs, not only fatherhood programs, but like Alcoholic Anonymous, they surround it's faith-based. And then there's another type of program that would be, but they all kind of cover the same thing, and that's about forgiving your father. They all cover that. And then we have some steps. So one of the steps that we have is shifting the blame. When you're talking about your father, it's not your fault. That was your father's fault, not yours, for what you're going through. This battle that your health, it's mentally, spiritually, or physically, you have nothing to blame yourself for. You should not be bearing the burden because it's not yours to begin with. So you have to let them know, you have to feel that it's not your fault what you're going through. The second one is forgiving your father. And one of the things that Nelson Mandela said, when a deep injury is done to us, we never heal until we forgive. So we have to stop blaming the entire thing on yourself, and do not harbor or a grudge or base or blame your dad for everything you are. You do see the difference here. Your father's actions or inactions caused you grief and pain, but you have to let it go. When you forgive, you're not only freeing not just your father, but you're also freeing yourself from this bondage of hate and bitterness. Then the next step that you have to take is empowering yourself. And this is where we start talking about making yourself feel good. You can have a loving husband. You can be a loving husband, an awesome dad, but you can also get out of addiction. Will it be easy? No. Will it take time? Yes. And effort too. Begin by asking yourself for help. Reading books touching the following topics of guidance, marriage counseling, manhood, spiritual, and faith, and talking to other people that can mentor you. And that goes into the last step that we do, and that's what we're good at, is finding a mentor. Since your father wasn't a good role model, you can set out to look for someone that can help you grow into by modeling them. There are many men willing to assist you at workplaces, at worship, where you worship, libraries and sport clubs, ethnic meetings, and meetings like we're going to right now, fatherhood meetings. And so these are the 4 steps that we see that can help you with tools to help you go through the father wounds.
Okay.
So the main thing was finding a mentor, empowering yourself, engaging, form of therapy, and telling yourself a new narrative and forgiving your father.
Let me get in here, Arnold, real quick. And I want to talk about telling yourself a new narrative. That's what really worked for me early on when I was dealing with my issues with my dad. I began to use a different language, like he was doing the best he could at the time that he was at this time. He was just with the skills and the ability he had, that's all he could do. And the other narrative is like, so my dad didn't intentionally leave me. He didn't plan to birth me into this world and say, hey, KP, I'm gonna just dog you and leave you alone. I ain't gonna mess with you. This wasn't his conversation. So a new narrative had to be, I got that from therapy. I got that from spiritual settings, from men's groups. How do I approach this? How do I see this differently? How do I have a new perspective on this? What was done to him when he was, like somebody's mentioned before? What was his childhood like? Did anybody teach him how to be a dad? So that really helped when I started looking at a new narrative. So, and therapy was definitely a way of moving to a different place. So these suggestions are for you guys. If you decide to, when you're doing a fatherhood group, you can offer these suggestions to your clients, to the people that are in the circle. You want to offer these suggestions or suggestions similar to these to your clients for their own healing process.
Kelvin, can I just add also that this is important because most dads who experienced a father wound and who had an absent dad or something like that, they all, and when I say all the ones that I've come in contact with have all declared that they are going to be better than their father was to them. And what happens eventually is sometimes they fall short. And a lot of the reasons for falling short is they haven't taken some of these steps. You know what I mean? A lot of reasons they definitely had great intentions of doing better and not being the absent dad that their dad was, or not being the abusive dad or the whatever dad that their dad was. But if you don't do something like some of these suggestions that Kelvin have provided, you'll end up falling into the same trap. So I just want to say that these are very important suggestions to share with the fathers that you guys are working with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now we're going to ask you guys to turn the volume up on your system, because we're going to play a video and the sound's a little low. And to tell you a little bit about this video, I mentioned that I do work, we do rites of passage programs at Juvenile Hall. This young man, we're about to experience a video. He's talking about his relationship with his dad. And he kind of talking about his relationship with his dad prior to how he responded to the situation prior to graduating from the rites of passage program, and also I've been his personal mentor since 2013. And now he's in UC Berkeley going for a law degree. He's an amazing young man. He's did a lot of things in the street. I'm not going to get all into his business, put it out there like that, but he definitely was out there, but he's doing a lot better. But he talks about his experience with his dad. I want you guys to listen to what he has to say. And then we're going to go into some breakout rooms and have more discussions about, his path. So turn your volume up and check it out. Am I sharing? Yeah, I'm sharing.
So I think my relationship with my father has contributed a lot to the way I acted out and I acted up during my middle school and high school.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Good. I'm gonna start it over.
So I think my relationship with my father has contributed a lot to the way I acted out and I acted up during my middle school and high school years. My grandfather and my father and all the men in my family have this tradition of using violence to correct behavior. So as I got older and they started seeing behaviors in me that they didn't like, they would beat me, they'd hit me. My dad, my mother always used to tell me, and my brothers and my siblings used to tell me like, oh, there's a lot of good memories. But for me, my childhood is full of like always seeing that belt buckle like this big coming out and my dad walking straight towards me with just a red face and like angered expression. So as I got older and people started trying to tell me like, that's not how you do things. No, I would start getting triggered and I'd get mad and I'd be like, you don't tell me how to do shit. And it started coming up in my head where it's like, you're not gonna treat me like my dad treated me, or you're not gonna talk to me like that. So I would that anger would start to come up and I start projecting it on other people, right? And, it was something that we dealt with, not only myself, I could say it for my brother as well, who him and my dad actually got into a fist fight a couple of times. I almost got into a fist fight with my dad. So it was never a playing field where it was like, let's have a conversation, sit down and talk. Anytime I tried to, he just laughed in my face and be like, that's what the women do. So moving forward, I did have a big issue when using words and talking with people. Even with my partner now, I can't have certain dialogue conversations with her because I feel like, I would get laughed at by certain people, but it's trying to break that barrier down and be like, okay, you know what? That's not how a man should act. That's not how a man should be with his significant other or with his wife or with his partner, with his brother or sister or whoever it might be, right? Because I wouldn't approach my niece like that. And that's all a part of trying to understand all this trauma, all these things that have happened in the past that have built up and trying to change the perspective of the lens to break that cycle and change it. So.
Oh, look, if you walk out of Will's life now, don't you ever come back.
Oops. Technical difficulties. This is man. So anyway, we're gonna go into breakout room and talk about that video from Alex. Like I said, he's an outstanding young man, and we have another video on cue for his experience now with his father and how he's managing his life. So we want to talk about that video in breakout room. So Dara's going to put everybody in breakout room and give us the questions. Do I need to put the questions up, Dara?
No,
Yes.
they're already in the chat.
Okay.
You should be able to see them. And Virve, if you're ready, you can put us in the rooms. I think we're gonna. How long, Kelvin?
8 minutes.
Okay.
Whoa. No, we better do 5 minutes this time.
Yeah, because the time check, we need to wrap. Kelvin, you got to be done about 12:55, so you got about 12 minutes left.
Oh, we better go for 4 minutes then, Dara.
Okay.
I do want to get to the discussion. I do want to get to the second video for sure.
If you want to, we can do a large group on this and then the breakout. So it's up to you.
Yeah, why don't we do the large group? Do you want, okay, I'm gonna go with your suggestion, Kevin. I think we'll just do the, show the contrasting video.
Okay.
And then we will just have a group discussion right here and you know, out in the open. What the hell? You know, we don't need no breakout room.
Be flexible. See, you're modeling. You're modeling.
Well, I'm not gonna say that. I ain't got time. Okay. Screen 2. Now let me do it.
Make sure you click the buttons at the bottom.
Got it.
So what has changed for me? It's being able to be around other men who have a different way of expressing themselves, who showed me a different way, who allow me to understand what the interaction between the son and the father should be like. So when I do see my father, I have a different way of addressing him, or I have a different way of handling the situation altogether. So now I'm happier with where I'm at. I'm not doing the things I used to. I'm not getting angry the way I used to. And I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm embracing the pain. Sometimes I just sit down and I just get sad. And now I'm like, I'm not going to be mad that I'm sad. I'm going to be happy in a way that I'm sad, because now I can begin to express my emotions and begin to uncover who I am and what I can become, or what I will become, right? Because I'm not going to add fuel to the fire. I'm going to put the fire out, and the next generation that comes within my family, or whoever comes behind me, is going to have a different path to walk. They're going to leave a different print in the sand. They're not going to go and burn a village down. They're going to go and plant a tree, whatever it might be. They're going to give back to the world instead of knock down the world.
Okay. The floor is open for some conversation. So a little narrative about that particular, those two videos. The first video kind of talks about, you know, his experience with his father. And then after being mentored, after being in the company of, you know, men that are, you know, moving in a different direction, his conversation is different now. You know, so what do you guys think about that?
Okay, so he went through all 3 stages. He shifted the blame. He forgave his father. He empowered himself, and he found a mentor in Kevin, Mr. Potts. And you've done an amazing job with this young man. I can't tell you enough how I admire you for what you've done with him.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. About 5 years ago, when I first started participating in the Father's Corp, I would actually be sitting in class with tears in my eyes. And the reason why, because when I started learning that my way as being authoritarian type of father, and the things that I learned, the mistakes that I made. And the thing about it is that, how can someone that don't know teach someone else that don't know, that taught somebody else that didn't know, that taught somebody else that didn't know, that was treated less than a animal? My forefathers came, my great-great-great-grandfather was treated less than an animal because he was in slavery. How would he know unless someone taught him? And so the bits and pieces that you get, some learned a better way, and then some didn't. Some didn't listen. Some were taught and didn't listen, and some just didn't know any better. So when you can get a different perspective from someone that do know, it's very valuable for that individual to get other resources of information to kind of shape them to be the person that they really want to be. So I think that the video, that was my perspective from the video and how important it is to get another viewpoint or to get another mentor.
Great.
See, it's the amazing thing, and I'll just speak for myself. What I've seen, like I said, I'm part of the Brotherhood of Elders Network, and some of the young men that are been released from juvenile hall, they'll come to the Brotherhood of Elders Network's meetings, or in virtual as well. And I had one young man tell me he'd never seen a room full of positive Black men before like this. It just amazed him. So the experience of seeing something different to start to develop a new narrative and place people in a position where they can start hearing something different than what they've heard most of their entire lives is of absolute importance, because then the bell may go off. Wow, I never thought about that. I never thought about looking at it like that. Recently a young man got released. Now, I didn't tell you the story, man. Him and his dad wasn't cool. His dad was, gangbanger dope dealer, but his dad is now a minister. I mentioned to him, I said, I want you to, talk to your dad. He said, KP, I'm not messing with him, man. I ain't got nothing to do with him, right? So I had a conversation with his dad. And his dad was like at odds with how to approach him. I said, man, you need to love on your son, bro. You need to love on him no matter what. No matter how he shows up, no matter how he turns himself around, love on him. And so that relationship has changed. It's different now. Dad loved on him. And now they're together and they're doing things. They're going out of town together. They have a relationship. So, sometimes people need to hear something different. So we as facilitators, and in my opinion, that's our role, is to give them a different perspective, a different outlook, a different way of approaching, this thing that we're doing. And it ain't always gonna work. Some folks is gonna be, the rest of their life, they ain't trying to hear none of that shit, man. I ain't trying to hear what you're talking about, but there are those who will have a breakthrough and they'll say, okay, let me try this. It sounds like something I can do. And my suggestion, if there's somebody in your community or somebody in your staff who's had an experience with their father, you might want to bring them in to talk about it. Because if they see somebody else that has actually gone through that process, more than likely they'll be like, okay, maybe I can do this. Because he looks like me, he talks like me, he's from where I'm from. He got it done, maybe I could get it done too. So I want a few more comments. We got a few more minutes, chop it up.
I just want to again restate how important it is that you guys are moving forward with these groups and providing a space where these types of conversations can happen. Because there aren't many spaces like that out there for men. We go to the barbershop, we talk at the barbershop, but these conversations for the most part aren't happening at the barbershop. You know what I'm saying? I think we have to be intentional about creating spaces for these types of conversations, because that's what needs to happen is we need to heal as individuals, we need to heal as a community, we need to heal as fathers, and just acknowledge that this stuff isn't easy. There is no playbook. Whether we had a good dad or not, it's still hard figuring out this whole parenting thing. And just the work that you guys are doing is critical, and I just want to acknowledge that.
KP,
I like to say thank you.
Hearing out for a quick second.
Yeah, we can hear you, Harold. Go ahead, man. You
okay.
live.
I was looking at the steps regarding the process of healing wounds within the father.
Okay.
I'm thinking that I'm not alone, but one of my things for me personally was honestly forgiving myself. Things that I was doing that I know was causing a problem to the relationship out of my own wounds. But for me, for my healing process, I had to get to a point to acknowledge the part that I played and how I made the situation worse, and to get to a point not only to forgive myself, but to even openly express to my father that I was sorry for some of the things that I was doing that made the relationship as messed up as it was.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Yeah, good point.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that, man. For real. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, not all the time, but sometimes we as sons of fathers, we need to be the teachers. You know, them old school guys sometimes, man, they're so stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
That we have to teach them that this is the way we want to see this happen. You know, one little story before we close this out, Kevin. I like telling stories. So, you know, me and my wife, I was married once back in the 80s, right? Me and my wife divorced. But I had a son and a daughter by her. And she kept my son and my daughter. When my son got to be about 11 or 12, he was really giving her a hard time. So she called me and said, you got to come get him, you know. So I went and got him. And so me and Kelvin, because he's Kelvin too, Kelvin Jr., and we kind of got into it a few times. And one time he packed his shit in packed his stuff in a sheet. And he was loading up his car, right? He about to leave. He mad, his daddy, he leaving, man. So I calmed myself down. I went outside. Never forget this. I'm getting emotional because it was an emotional time, right? So I'm watering the grass, just trying to calm myself down. I said, son, if you get a moment, can you sit down so we can talk about this? You know, so he stopped packing, he sat down. I said, son, when I was 17, my dad kicked me out. And I swore to myself that I wouldn't pass this on to you. So you just think about this. I don't want to see this happen. I don't want to see another generation with a father and son relationship that goes in that direction. So he sat there for a while, then he went back to the car and started unpacking his stuff. He brought it back. I'm laughing, but it was a tough situation. But what I always wanted to do was to show my son how much I loved him, how much I appreciated him, and that I would never leave him. You know, I would never leave your side, son. So I was able to change his mind. And we have a wonderful relationship. You know, I have 2 grandsons, another one on the way by him. He's doing some amazing work in the community with basketball training and teams and stuff like that. So we have similar interests. And I work with youth, he's worked with youth. So we kind of, and you know, somebody said it, I think it might be an Arnold. You can say all the things you want to do, but sometimes you got to give a real example of this is how this life is led, son. And let me show you this way. So I'm sure we all have some stories to share. And like Kevin, I'm agree with Kevin, we need to create more spaces like this and maybe do this kind of stuff more often where we're actually together having dialogue and conversations and people can offer their input and we can get more feedback and more information about this whole work that we're doing. I appreciate you guys and thank you for allowing me into the space.
Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you, Arnold. I just, you know, this is probably, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th time we've done this training. And it doesn't get any lighter. You know, it continues to be pretty heavy. I think the relationships that kids have with their fathers is, you know, critical to our families, critical to the health of our communities, and critical just to our growth and development as a people. So